Good morning, children. Today we are going to start with the next chapter in your book Flamingo, Lost Spring. Stories of Stolen Childhood by Anees Jung. Let me just quickly tell you about the author, Anees Jung, children. Anees Jung, children, was born in northern Orissa in Rourkela, and she spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. Both her parents were writers, and she began her career as a writer in India. Well, she has been an editor for major newspapers in India as well as abroad. She has also authored several books, children, and the story Lost Spring that we are going to do today is basically an excerpt from her book, which is titled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. In this particular book, she has analyzed the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. Now, before I start the explanation, and of course, I'll be reading it and simultaneously explaining it. Before that, I would like you to spend just a few moments and try to interpret this title, Lost Spring. Now, if I tell you to interpret the title, what will come to your mind first? The first thing that comes to your mind is the meaning of the word spring. Am I right? Yes. So, what do we mean by the word spring? Spring is the time for rebirth, renewal of growth, rejuvenation. And what happens? What do we see during this time, children? During this time, flowers bloom and trees begin to grow and reproduce. So basically, spring is the time for growth, for rejuvenation, right? And when we say lost spring, I am sure by now most of you have been able to interpret the title that in this particular chapter we are going to deal with the lives of these children who have not been able to who have not been basically able to spend their childhood the way a normal child should. All right. So now I start with the reading and simultaneously I will be explaining this to you. I hope all of you have your textbooks with you, children. Last time also I told you, just in case anyone doesn't possess a book, NCERT book, you can download it, children, on your systems, and you can just have printouts, or even if you don't have the printouts, you can just download it and look into it on your systems itself. All right. So I'm starting with the reading and then explaining the chapter. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. All right. So this is how we start. We start with the first child. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him that's why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. So we have completed the first two paragraphs. have you understood whom are we talking of? We are talking of this boy who has come from Dhaka. Okay, Dhaka, capital of Bangladesh. And he is basically a rag picker. And what is he doing? What does he do? How does he start his day? Yes, every morning he is seen by the author scrounging for gold. And where is he scrounging for gold? He is scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps. As you can see in this slide in front of you, that this in these garbage dumps he is scrounging for gold every morning. And every morning the author witnesses Sahib doing this. Yes, should I proceed? All right. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? So, can you imagine? The author must have just said, just like that, false promises. But for the child, he is not going to school. Children, sometimes we should count our blessings. You are privileged to be going to schools. You are so privileged that your parents think about your education. They think of your childhood. Yes, you have enjoyed your childhood, and you have gone to good schools, and you are receiving education, the right to education. That is your right. That is a right for to every child. Every child is supposed to receive education. But children like Sahib, are they receiving the education? No. What are they doing? They are scrounging for gold in these garbage dumps. So it's a bleak world for them. So for him, education is extremely important. For him, going to school is like a dream come true. So when somebody promises him, when somebody tells him that yes, I will open a school, and the day I open a school, I will definitely ask you to come and join. So the first thing when he meets the author the next day, he asks, is the school ready? The author says, it takes longer to build a school. I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Not hopeful. Bleak means something which is not very promising, not very hopeful. So his world is abound. Abound means something which exists in large numbers. His bleak world is full of such false promises made by people time and again. It takes longer to build a school. So this is what she tells him. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name, Sahib e Alam. So what is his name? Sahib e Alam. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, what is the meaning of Sahib e Alam, children? Lord of the universe. If he knew its meaning, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends and of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So, which figure of speech is used here? Simile, all right? Army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So, all of them come in the morning. Why do they come in the morning? Because that is the time when people dump their garbage. That is the time when the garbage comes. So, they have to search the garbage dumps and they have to scrounge for various kinds of things in those garbage dumps. So that the author has put it very beautifully when she says, army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So this is a simile. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. So basically, the author has now, the same faces. She sees the same faces every morning. Uh, the same group of boys comes. The same group of boys. The same group is witnessed by the author. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answers simply. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another boy who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Perpetual is what, children? Something which is never ending. Perpetual state of poverty. So the author says that I just wonder, when these children give me this kind of an excuse as to explain, as to give me the explanation when I ask them, why aren't you wearing your chappals? Such excuses when they give me, I just wonder, are they just giving this an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty in which they live day in and day out? So she just wonders this. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited this town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. Why do you think the temple has drowned in an air of desolation, children? It became so old and dilapidated that people stopped visiting it, right? In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived, panting. Panting is when you are out of breath, yes? And threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys, like the son of the priest, now wore shoes. But many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. Now, you can imagine buying a pair of shoes. Is it a great deal for us or for you? No, it's not. But it is a great deal for these rag pickers. For these children, getting a pair of shoes is certainly a big thing for them, children. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri. Simapuri, children, is a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh way back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. Tarpaulin, children, the spelling is Tarpaulin, but please remember that when you are pronouncing this word, it should be ta, okay? Tarpaulin. The pronunciation is like this, tarpaulin, R is silent, okay? Tarpaulin. And what is the meaning? The meaning is waterproof cloth, which is originally of tarred canvas. Okay. It still is, but it is no longer empty. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters' lists and enable them to buy grain. Now, let me come back to this particular sentence which is there in the beginning of the paragraph. That Seema Puri, when he is talking, not he, sorry, she, when the author is talking of this place called Seema Puri, she says, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. So let me just quickly explain this to you in detail. Now, these rag pickers, basically, where are they living? In Seema Puri. Where is Seema Puri? In the neighborhood of Delhi, but very far away from it. Why is it far if it is in Delhi? Why is the author saying that it is away from it, metaphorically? Because they are not able. Who is they? They refers to the rag pickers. These young rag pickers, these children, are not able to enjoy the basic necessities and facilities such as proper food, clothing, sanitation, drinking water, etc., etc. So, Delhi, in spite of being the capital of India, where all the developmental policies of nation are framed, is not able to help these rag pickers, these young children, in any manner. So that is why the author says that Seema Puri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Okay? Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So, when the author asked these people as to why they left their houses in Bangladesh and came over to this place, they say that we were not getting anything over there, and when we were living over there, our fields gave us no grain. So they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers because food is more important. They feel for survival they need food. Identity is basically not important. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents and become transit homes. Okay. So transit homes refers to basically carrying of people, transit. What is the meaning of the word transit? Carrying of people or things from one place to another. So children grow up in them becoming partners in survival. And survival in Seema Puri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Now, just look at this. The author is calling it a fine art. Okay, what is she calling a fine art? Rag picking is called a fine art. Why is it called a fine art? Can you guess? All right, I'll tell you. Because it is the source of survival for many. Children engaged in this practice have learnt the art of finding rupees in the garbage mounds. So, through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Did you understand why the fine art? Garbage to them is gold. It is now this is another figure of speech, children. This is hyperbole, hyperbole, hyperbole. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads. Even if it is a leaking roof, but for a child, it is even more. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more. So Sahib feels that he will not stop scrounging, because there is always a hope. Can you just look at the plight of these children? That scrounging in the garbage dumps is also a hopeful thing. I mean, in scrounging in those garbage dumps, also they have some amount of hope left in their heart. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. One morning, one winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. Sahib, too, is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. So, according to the author, now Sahib is no longer his own master because so far he was his own master, yes, till the time he was scrounging in those garbage dumps and moving around freely as per his, desire. So he was basically his own master. But now, when he joined a tea stall and when he is carrying this steel canister, which belongs to the man that owns the tea shop, the author feels that Sahib is no longer his own master. Okay, children. So, till here we just read about one boy who came from Simapuri. Now we are going to read about Mukesh. Who is Mukesh? Mukesh belongs to Firozabad. Firozabad, children, is basically the center of India's glass blowing industry. Okay, so now we are just going to read about Mukesh. It starts like this: I want to drive a car. I refers to Mukesh here. Okay, so the author says Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. So, when somebody looks straight into your eyes, What does this tell you about that person? That that person is very confident, that that person is quite sure of himself, and he means what he says, right? He's not lying. That is also one thing which you can tell. So, do you know anything about cars when the author asks? He says, I will learn to drive a car. And he says this looking straight into the author's eyes. His dream looms like a mirage. All of you know a mirage, right? Yes. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles. So, what is Firozabad famous for? Firozabad is famous for bangles. Each other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. Now, when the author says that his dream, whose dream, Mukesh's dream, looms like a mirage, why does she say it looms like a mirage? Yes, although he is hopeful and he aspires to be a successful motor mechanic, his dream looms like a mirage, children, because it appears to be bleak. It appears to be so bleak. His future is not promising. There is no surety. There is no assurance. No, but nobody is giving any assurance, and there is no surety that he will become a motor mechanic. Now let's come back to the paragraph. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures, in dingy cells, without air and light. Dingy is some very gloomy, drab. Okay, so they work in such dingy rooms, dingy cells where there is no air, where there is no light. That the law of enforced could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. Let me just quickly come back to these lines, children. So Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home. So he's very happy, and he volunteers and he's basically taking me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. So he's quite proud of this fact that his house is being rebuilt, and is very happy to take me to his home. So we walk down, we refers to the author and Mukesh. We walk down stinking lanes. Stinking lanes, the lanes are stinking badly, children. Why are they stinking? Because they are choked with garbage. Past homes that remain hovels. What are hovels basically? Very simply constructed dwellings. Okay, very simply constructed dwellings are called hovels. With crumbling walls. Yes, the walls are almost, crumbling. Wobbly is what? Moving from side to side. Wobbly doors. And obviously there are no windows. So no air, no fresh air, no cross ventilation. Crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. What is primeval? Earliest time in history, like earliest times in history when humans and animals coexisted. So that kind of that state of affairs, that is the state of affairs where these people live, and that is how they live. Mukesh stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot, and pushes it open. We enter a half built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu. Bahu refers to the daughter in law of the house, already in charge of three men her husband, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. As custom demands, daughters in law must veil their face. Veil, you know, right? A piece of fine material which is worn by women to protect or conceal their faces. Veil, veil. Their faces before male elders. In this case, children, in case you find any word difficult, you can always underline it. And as and when I tell you the meanings, you can obviously write down the explanation. I hope all of you have your books, and I also hope that you are carrying your pencils along with you. And just in case anyone doesn't have a book, hard copy, I mean, please download the books, children. Okay? In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his two sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows. And what is it that he knows? He knows the art of making bangles. It is his karam, his destiny. Who says this? Mukesh's grandmother says this. Who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles? Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house. Excuse me, children. In every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow lie in mounds of unkempt yards. Unkempt means dirty, untidy, are piled on four-wheeled handcarts pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. And shanty is children's small, crudely built shacks, okay? And in dark apartments, next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps, sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Now, I'm just going back to these lines, children. Please pay attention. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. So, isn't it ironic that these children live a cheerless existence and lose the shine of their eyes? And why do they lose the shine of their eyes? Doing what? They are making beautiful bangles of the brightest and most vibrant colors for people on all parts of the country. So they are losing the shine of their own eyes to make something so beautiful. So the author It is quite ironical. Savita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass. As her hands move mechanically like the tongs of a machine, I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. Well, glass bangles symbolize an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrists. She will then become a bride, like the old woman beside her who became one many, many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist, but no light in her eyes. एक वक्त से भर खाना भी नहीं खाया है. So basically, what is this woman saying? This old grandmother, she says that even after a lifetime of this grueling labor, they cannot even enjoy a proper meal. She says in a voice which is drained of joy. So there is no joy. They are engaged in this industry. Making they are making something so beautiful, but in order to create something so beautiful, what all do they have to go through? What all do they have to go through day in and day out, children? So therefore, there is just no joy in their lives. Not just the joy, they have not been able to enjoy a proper meal for so for she doesn't remember when was the last time they enjoyed a proper meal. So after a lifetime of grueling labor, they were unable to enjoy a proper meal. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. Yes, this is what she has gathered at the end of the day. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. Hearing them, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. So he feels that this is a great achievement, that at least he was able to build a roof over their heads. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the lament. Lament here refers to complaint. Children, there are two meanings of lament, sorrow and complaint. With reference to context, if we talk here, it should mean complaint of their elders. Little has moved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. Years of mind numbing toil have killed all initiative and the ability to dream. So, this is basically the common complaint, of not only the elders but also the youngsters now. They feel that for years they have been leading this life of poverty, and now they seem to be stuck in this vicious circle. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into this vicious circle of middlemen who trap their fathers and forefathers. So, Anis Jung is quite curious and she wants to know that why can't these people organize themselves into a cooperative? Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police. Hauled up means that even if we do something like this, at the end of the day, because we are not influential people, we are not powerful people, we will be pulled up by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal, they say. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. So, there is so much of sorrow, so much of poverty. Neither they don't have they somehow don't have the courage, children, and at the same time And at the same time, they feel that if they do anything of this sort, it will be a futile exercise because eventually nobody is going to listen to them. They talk endlessly in a spiral. Spiral, what spiral, children? Spiral of poverty, okay? So they talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy, to greed, and to injustice. So finally, it is this vicious circle that they find themselves in, caught into, and there is no looking back now. Listening to them, I see two distinct worlds, one of the family caught in a web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born, the other a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. So, here, if we come back to Mukesh, what has he done? He has accepted this baggage. He has accepted this baggage. He is caught in this vicious circle, in this vicious cycle of poverty. He has lost the golden days of his childhood. He has not received any education. He has not got any healthy lifestyle. He doesn't even get proper food to eat. There is no fun. There is no joy in his life. So, and he is working in such hazardous conditions, and he is basically following the family's profession because he has no choice. He accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare. So, if you don't accept this profession, what do? You have to, if you think out of the box, then you have to dare to dream. And daring is not part of his growing up. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. He will go to a garage and learn. But the garage is a long way from his home. Okay, so he will go to a garage and learn, but the garage is a long way from his home. I will walk, he insists. Do you also dream of flying a plane? So the author asks Mukesh that, all right, you will become a mechanic and you will drive cars, I know, but do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. In his small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Few airplanes fly over Firozabad. So, in these last lines of the chapter, we see that Mukesh is content to dream, is content, he at least dares to dream, unlike so many others in this profession who find themselves stuck in this vicious circle of poverty. At least Mukesh is different because he dares to dream, even if that dream is of becoming a motor mechanic. So what? So he is content. He's content to dream of what? Of being a motor mechanic. All right. So with this, we come to an end of the explanation of this chapter, children. However, I have a request that I have given this link, this video I want you all to watch. I don't think this video is, the duration of the video is not more than 10 minutes. So you can spare that much time and kindly watch this video. You will get a lot of knowledge about about this industry, about Firozabad, and about these bangle makers. Alright children, so now let us go on to the next step of discussing the main question answers that we have written for you. Now, as I as I tell you the questions, you can see this is the first question which we are going to discuss. As I discuss, I'll be also telling you about, obviously, we'll be discussing it and I'll be giving you the value points. Now, before I go on to that, let me just quickly summarize the chapter for you once again. So basically, this was a story, children, by Anis Jung, in which she has described the pitiable condition of poor children who have been forced to miss the joys of childhood of their because of their socio-economic conditions. Yes, they have been denied this opportunity of going to school, and they are forced into child labor, very early in their lives. So basically, in this chapter, she gives voice to eliminate child labor. And how is this possible? This is possible if we try to educate these children, if we try to enforce the laws against child labor very strictly. The government has to do it very strictly. And the basic call, the main call should be to end child exploitation and let these children and many more children like these children of Simapuri, and Firozabad, let these children enjoy the days of the spring that bring joy under their feet. Okay. So, coming back to the title, Lost Spring, we don't want that the spring is lost. We want that they enjoy their days of the spring, and that it brings joy under their feet. All right. So, I quickly summarize this for you. Now, I am sure we have understood. In case we have any queries, you can always get back to me. Very soon we'll be discussing also, don't worry. So as of now, we have written a few questions. One by one in each slide you will get the questions in which I will be discussing the answer. Of course, the value points are there which you can just write down in your registers. Alright. So keep your work ready, start writing, start filling your registers, and I'm sure we'll be meeting very soon, children. So let's now start some written work. All right. Now the first question is on your slide, as you can see. I'll just read it. The question is, most of us do not raise our voice against injustice in our society and tend to remain mute spectators. Anis Jung, in her story Lost Spring, vividly highlights the miserable life of street children and bangle makers of Firozabad. She wants us to act. Which qualities does she want the children to develop? Okay, you can just think about it for a few seconds. All right. So Anis Jung in this lesson, Lost Spring, basically talks about the children who are deprived of their childhood because of poverty, which has fallen upon them due to the middlemen and lawmaking agencies. She wants them to become strong and raise their voice against the people who force them into child labor. Now please remember, children, since such questions, now if you have a question like that, this will be a 6 marker most probably. If this is a 2 marker, then accordingly you answer. Now we are writing according to 6 marks. So when we are writing this according to 6 marks, it becomes a long answer. Now a long answer should be, you should break it into various paragraphs. All right. Now, like if till here you have written one paragraph, if you feel have written 10 lines or maybe 8 to 9 lines or 7 to 8 lines you have written, just and you are talking of 8 to 9 lines if you have written, I think you should go to the next paragraph. So now if you start with the next paragraph, in that you can talk of that Anis Jung wants these children to dream, which is very important. Once you are able to dream something, you will work to achieve it. Yes, day in and day out, children, you will attain those dreams, you will fulfill those dreams of yours. So she wants them to dream, she wants them to be creative and optimistic. Yes, She talks about Mukesh, who in the story dreams to become a motor mechanic and drive a car. Mukesh is bound by his family's caste, which compels him to take up a job of a bangle maker. She wants Mukesh to break free after seeing ambition in his eyes. She wants the people and the society to change the system and stop exploiting the underprivileged. So, till here, we have written almost two paragraphs, 2 to 3 paragraphs we have already written, children, okay? And now we come to the last paragraph. She wants them to fight against the injustice being done to them and at the same time wants to awaken their inner strength and fights against the people who exploit them. Okay, so these are few value points. Now, if you see my value points, I have inserted some bullets over there. So, 5 bullet points, 5 different value points would refer to 5 different paragraphs. Simple, right? Now, just in case you have a lot of bullet points, then you can just reduce it. For instance, I can see this in the second question. You see how many other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So, no, there is no need to make 7 paragraphs. You can just restrict yourselves to 4 or 5 paragraphs. All right. Now, let's discuss the next question. Where they slog their daylight hours, often losing their brightness of their eyes. The given lines show the horrific conditions which many children are subjected to just for common selfish gains. Explain. Okay, so this we just discussed in the chapter also. I'll just quickly discuss it once again. So these hapless children, these unfortunate children are very often subjected to inhuman conditions by the people who look forward only for financial gains. If we look around, we find, excuse me, children. So, if we look around, we find small children working hard against their wishes, sacrificing their childhood for a small amount of money that they earn for their living. Barefoot, with torn clothes and not going to school, these young souls toil hard under harsh conditions and dingy workplaces. So far, all right. So these conditions lead to various diseases. Child labor is an offense in India. Still, the horrifying truth is that a large number of children are engaged in various industries. Their condition is miserable. They work and live in an unacceptable condition, and something needs to be done for it. We need the laws to be stricter, and the government should try and punish the lawbreakers who employ children as laborers, depriving them of their basic rights. The time these children should have been utilizing for education is being used for toiling hard in factories, often leading to health hazards. Okay, so basically these are the value points. You can expand and you can also listen to the recording again and again and complete your answers accordingly. All right. So we go on to the next slide. The next question is, it is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother. The above given lines show that the bangle makers of Firozabad have lost all hope. Do you feel that God giving lineage can be broken? Why or why not? Explain. Now, Mukesh's mother children has witnessed, all these sufferings of the bangle makers. Generations have been toiling for so many years now in this glass industry to earn a living which was never sufficient for a survival. The time and the condition never allowed any bangle maker to think or imagine of doing something else. They accepted their job, they accepted their work as their karam or their destiny from which they could never break free. So, according to the story, Mukesh is hopeful of doing something different. He dreams of driving a car and becoming a motor mechanic. To fulfill his dream, he has to break free from the God given lineage. Okay, so since we just spoke about Mukesh earlier also when we were doing the lesson, that he is different and he dares to dream. A person who dares to dream has the potential to break free. He has the potential. A person who dares to dream will definitely, yes, make his dreams come true. So in the next paragraph, you can say he needs a lot of courage and determination to walk a path trodden by anyone else. The people who have intense desire to create their destiny definitely face hardships while walking towards their goal. Courageous people with steel like determination will be able to succeed. They will have their names written in history, and the society will praise and acknowledge their courage. So, God given lineage is man made because, children, everyone has equal rights before law. One's occupation cannot be bound by any kind of lineage. It is basically created by those selfish people who want to have financial gains. This realization can be only achieved through determination and education. And Mukesh has been able to realize this. All right. So that was your next, that was your question number 3. Now we come to the next question. Sahib is no longer his own master. Explain. Yes, this also we did just a short while ago. Okay, so you can start your answer by saying that grinding poverty and the need to survive made Sahib work hard as a rag picker. Every morning he went through the garbage to find something useful for his living. His life was like a bird's life, the bird which was free to fly in its own world. He had the liberty to roam freely in the streets with his friends without any trouble or worry. Garbage for him was gold. It was mystery in a beautiful cover of secrecy. It provided him thrill. Whenever he could get his hands on a 1 rupee note or a 10 rupee note, this excitement made him, go through that garbage without any complaints because he was his own master. The time changed and he got into the other side of life, which forced him to take a job at a tea stall. He desired to become his own master once again, but realized that he has been enslaved. His life had changed. He was no longer the master of his own life, as he was now mastered by someone else. His new occupation finds him and does not give him, binds him, sorry, not finds him, I'm so sorry. It's written in the last line also that his new occupation binds him and does not give him any liberty. So far clear, children? Yes, let's go on to the next question, question number 5. Food is more important for survival than an identity. Explain, keeping in view the refugees of Simapuri. Okay, so the value points are there. There are 4 value points, so you can just maybe write 3 paragraphs. Yes. Simapuri is known to be on the outskirts of Delhi and is inhabited by the people who left Bangladesh during the 1971 war and came to settle in India. Okay. They are basically children refugees or squatters who were suffering from identity crisis as they neither belong to Bangladesh nor India. They left their country and infiltrated into India illegally. So basically, they are illegal migrants. They only have a ration card given for selfish reasons. The place inhabited by them is unorganized, devoid of sewage, with no basic amenities like drinking water and other things. Still, they live in Simapuri as they do not have any other option. It is a well known fact that food is the basic requirement for survival, and they were lucky to have a ration card in their name, which provided them grains at a subsidized rate. So, they have those ration cards, they go to these places where they show these ration cards and they get grains, rice, and other necessary things on subsidized rates. So, subsidized rate, and this acted as a boon for them, and they survived year after year without any identity. So, signifying that food is more important than identity for these rat pickers of Simapuri. With that, we come to an end to the discussion of these question answers. We have some more practice questions for you in these next two slides, children. Please go through these questions and try to write down the answers. Some are 6 markers, some are 2 markers. We can discuss that also later on. However, some of the questions were were asked in the last 2 years, so that also has been mentioned over there. So please do practice these questions. Please do attempt these questions and write them in your registers. Thank you, children. That is all for today. See you next time. All right, with your next lesson. Next, we will be doing, we'll be telling you what we'll be doing later on. All right, so that is all for now. Thank you.